This pathway is known as the Roman road, or the path to the kingdom, or the idea that all rivers lead to the sea, is also given in Islam as the Sirat, or bridge or path upon which the people would walk. And this path is known as the everlasting covenant in the Bible. Shoghi Effendi was Abdu'l-Baha's grandson through his daughter, and was a male descendant of Muhammad through a collateral descendant of the Bab. As a male descendant of Abraham through Ishmael, Shoghi Effendi did not sit upon the throne of David. And the throne line of David is a male line, father to son inheritance only. Being the grandson of Abdu'l-Baha through his daughter, he also could not inherit the throne of David. But during his lifetime, on January 9th, 1951, Shoghi Effendi established the Universal House of Justice, with Abdu'l-Baha's Aghsan son as its president. Aghsan being the Persian word for branches, where Baha'u'llah was known as the root, the line of David continuing after him was known as the branches, Abdu'l-Baha being the most great branch. Well, at the time of Shoghi Effendi, there was World War II was taking place, and the British were planning to leave the area of Palestine, and they wanted to turn the government over to the local people for self-government for themselves. And at this time, the United Nations was in the works of being set up as another imitation of Baha'u'llah's peace plan. And so the British went to Shoghi Effendi and they asked him, Shoghi Effendi, we're going to turn the country over to the local people, and we don't know whether we should turn it over to the Jews or over to the Arabs. But what was your input? And Shoghi Effendi stated that it didn't matter to him as long as whoever took control of the government allowed the Baha'is and the Baha'i Center on Haifa and the Baha'i holy sites in Palestine to be protected and preserved. So the British went to the Arabs and said, will you protect the Baha'i holy lands and the Baha'i shrines? And they said, hell no, we'll kill them all and drive them into the ocean. And they went to the Jews and said, will you protect the Baha'i holy lands and shrines? And the Jews said, yes, but under one condition. And they said, what's that? And the condition is that they don't proselytize amongst the people. And the reason for this was that the Jewish people were then coming from all over the world, returning back to the area of Palestine and Jerusalem. And the Jewish leadership at the time knew that if they found out that Baha'u'llah was a male line descendant of King David from the throne line of kings, they'd all convert. And Baha'u'llah commanded that we lay down our weapons. And they knew that they wanted to have an armed military state in the Holy Land. And that's why they didn't want the Baha'is to proselytize amongst the people, or they wouldn't join the Israeli army. So the state of Israel today becomes the chalice that holds that wish-fulfilling jewel of pearl of great price, which is the Baha'i World Center properties in the Holy Land. And they went back to Shoghi Effendi and told him what the Arabs said, the Muslims, and what the Jews had said. And Shoghi Effendi said that it was okay with him if they didn't proselytize. And that's why the majority of people in that area don't know the true identity of Baha'u'llah as that great King of Kings the whole Bible is talking about. The one seated on the throne of David. The kingdom of God is not a far-off mystical place, but it's a real kingdom with laws, subjects, and a king. It's the government of God established upon the earth as it was in heaven of prophecy, promised to be established upon the earth, with God ruling from the throne of King David, that's the executive branch of his true universal house of justice of Baha'u'llah. So after the Holy Land was divided in this manner, this is causing all the problems in the world today. And people do not realize the central role that the Baha'i message and that Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i Faith, played in this role. And he established Abdu'l-Baha's son as the president of that Universal House of Justice on January 9th of 1951. When Shoghi Effendi passed on, a group of people known as the Hands usurped and hijacked the Baha'i Faith for themselves. And they got the people to think that there was no universal house of justice. And that got them to think that the line of King David had come to an end. By hoodwinking the people into this, they then, in 1959, decided to scrap and bypassed Shoghi Effendi's Universal House of Justice, which he had set up as an international Baha'i council with full powers of the Universal House of Justice. And they called for the election of a bogus, headless monster, so-called UHJ, in 1963. And when they did this move and this attack against Shoghi Effendi's son, his non-biological son being the council itself, the head and body both, Abdu'l-Baha's son was forced to separate from these covenant breakers in November of 1959. And on April 21st to May 2nd, Rizwan of 1960, he proclaimed that he was the president of the Universal House of Justice and the Aghsan son of Abdu'l-Baha, and that nobody was going to dismantle this Universal House of Justice. And the majority of people that don't know what happened went along with this scheme of these covenant-breaking hands. And because of this, the Abdu'l-Baha's son came to the United States of America in the Rocky Mountains, where Abdu'l-Baha himself rested in 1912, and this is where the Universal House of Justice, with the great-grandson of Abdu'l-Baha as its head and president, is established to this very day.